Namaste. Welcome to our December satsang. And as usual, there's some kind of, in a sense, commercial that I want to go through about some of the latest things or something I think it'd be good for you to know about. All right. Now we're posting talks on the Bhagavad Gita. And you can find them at youtube.com, Light of the Spirit, playlist talks on the Bhagavad Gita. However, I'm seriously thinking of doing something on the Gita for us in these satsangs. All right, and it's also on a website. And that, of course, is for reading. And there also on that website, we have many things posted that you might find interesting. All right. This is book day very much for this. This is something very important. A yogi's health is important. Fake religion is all metaphysical. It's all spiritual. So spiritual, as I think I've mentioned. I had a friend in one of these awful, if once you're saved, you can never be unsaved churches where the people live like the devil because once upon a time they thought they had been saved. And he said, my body sins, but I don't sin. Think of what an insane thing that is. But the body is important because it's the vehicle that we function through. And its health is important. In fact, from time to time, I'm going to be showing certain things that are really helpful for health that I think you might find useful. Now, I want to talk now about a book. Your Body's Many Cries for Water. This is an incredibly important book. This man is an Iranian physician, and actually he discovered a lot of the things about water and its effect on the body when he was in prison in Iran under the Khomeini. So you can get the book free at archive.org. I haven't been able to find that it was available in print. You might look at Amazon, though, in case I missed it. But archive.org is a very important website because you can get many very good books there just for the download. And rare books, books on Dharma, some of Sivananda's books. And so I really recommend it. Speaking of books, then, there is our latest. Let me go like that. Because I'm looking on a monitor. All right, Hinduism, the Universal Religion. This is a book printed in 1920 by the Sri Bharat ashram in Benares, the ashram where Yogananda lived for a while. And it was edited by Swami Vidyananda, whom he talks about in Autobiography of a Yogi. This is a phenomenally valuable book. It's good to read the book Sanatana Dharma, the Eternal Religion, perhaps first, because that is written in such a beautiful, clear way, and it's very basic, but it's very, very important. And that's sort of the high school book, and this is the college book. This is very, very detailed. It is also very technical, but it's remarkable. I loved every minute I spent first reading it and then in editing it. And Sanatana Dharma is the most wonderful thing, or one of the most wonderful things in the world. And just to know that the ancient sages knew all these things is really wonderful. Okay. Well, we talked before about little reminders to do Soham and remember the japa. Well, there's something also visual, which I think is very important, and I like it. It's also an object lesson. Excuse me, I realized that I said we're, yes, I've got it. All right. Scattered. For those of you who know astrology, it's classical Gemini rising mentality. All right, here we have something very interesting. Maybe I should do that. No, I should do this. Sorry, I'm trying to see whether you're seeing it. I can't get it all in. Whoop, there, that's the whole thing. But it's meant to be hung on the wall like this, upright. There, that works. This is from a carved pillar in Ireland. It was made by monks, and it was a spiritual reminder for the monks that this was how you went to God. On the earth, it's horizontal, but in the spirit is vertical. That you don't meander, you don't dawdle, you look up and you see there's the goal, and up you go. You row your spiritual boat straight up, looking at the ideal all the time. You can buy this on Amazon, and also it's called St. Brendan's Boat. There's no evidence for that as being so, but St. Brendan did, it is said, have a boat, and that he and his disciples came to America at one point. But whichever it is, you can look that up, and I think there's one that's only about 5x2 that's not very expensive at all, but it's good as a reminder. But a reminder that you've got to go straight up. St. John Vianney used to say, go straight to God like a shot out of a cannon. And that's the way the wise yogi has got to do it. It's not at all optional. Now, since this is made by people who want to make money, there not only is a hanger there, but of course, there is a hanger here. So we can make it all nice and comfortable and just go horizontally. But it's in our free will. We should go the way that we wish to go. All right. I do not understand why it is all right to kill and eat plants, but not all right to kill and eat animals. It feels like the consciousness is the same in both. I am not asking this, excuse me, so I can eat meat. I'm a vegetarian because my mind, memory, and meditation are sharper when I eat only vegetables. Absolutely true. I'm asking because I hope to understand better. Yes, I remember you have these carnivorous Buddhists, which is an incredible idea, that anyone could be a Buddhist and think that meat eating is a part of the path of the Buddha. But anyway, someone who was being bullied, because you see, when you have A discipline other people don't have. They like to bully you out of it or sneer at you for it because you're showing them up. Their ego is very displeased. And so she was talking to a supposed Roshi about not eating meat. And he said, but what about the helpless broccoli? Wasn't that compassionate? So let's talk about the helpless broccoli. Fully sentient beings, you and I, we have 5 levels or 5 koshas, bodies. One of the body, you see, there's the Anandamaya body, is purely matter. Then the Pranamaya body, that is a body of life force. Then there is the Manomaya body, which is the body of the senses. It hears, it sees, it touches, it feels sensations in the body. Then there, of course, is the Jnanamaya body, which is the thinking body, the thinking mind. The Manomaya body sees a thing, it's coming up, and then it's got something's coming out. But the Jnanamaya body said, that's a tree. So this is a difference. The Manomaya body gives us a perception, and the Jnanamaya body tells what it is, or says, hey, that's hot, and it'll injure you, get your hand away from there. All right. Now, plants have Annamaya and Pranamaya bodies. The yogis have seen this. This isn't just a theory. And when they are cut or struck, there is an agitation in both the physical and the pranamaya body. It can be measured. For example, you can look at a plant that's, say, been hooked up to an brainwave machine and think, I'm going to rip it up by the roots, and there'll actually be agitation recorded there. But the plant has no manomaya body. It cannot feel pain. Well, if it can't feel pain, how can it pick up your thought? That's because through the pranamaya body, everything is living and it can get some kind of impression. But it does not feel pain. Therefore, the helpless broccoli does not scream. I knew a drug addict who claimed that every time the lawn was mowed next door to him, he heard thousands of voices screaming because the grass was being cut by the mower. As I've had people say to me in India, yes, if you like, or you may if you like. But of course, this is nonsense. So there is indeed consciousness there, but unconscious consciousness. All right, next. Is it possible for an ordinary person who has wasted his or her energy for years to make up their lost energy by practicing brahmacharya when in their 30s or 40s? Absolutely. And even older. It's not, you see, we're not batteries in the sense that we were born with a certain amount of charge, and as the years go by, the charge goes down, and then there we are. No, we're alive. So as we eat continually because we take energies into our bodies, and the body functions on it. Therefore, brahmacharya, you see, is retaining the powers you have. And you see, as you eat the food, the various levels of the energies it has and the quality of energies, they gravitate to the chakras, to certain areas of the chakras. And but I will not be saying, potatoes go here and lemons go there as far as what level of the bodies, but so it is. And brahmacharya, which also is control of the senses that seem non-material, that charges up the battery, and it's very, very important. But yes, but remember, brahmacharya is mostly in the mind. It says in the Gita, thinking about objects will addict you to the objects. So, it's very important. Okay. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna to meditate with his eyes half shut, focused on the point of his nose. I read other articles that say to focus the eyes upward. Well, he does not say look at the point of the nose at all. He says nasikagram, which means origin of the nose. Well, where does the nose originate? Well, up here. It comes out of the body. Therefore, the origin of the nose is there, first of all. Second is, in meditation, you see there's different kind of mudras. There are hatha yoga positions. They're called mudras. Then there are finger, like chin mudra. There are different ones. Ankusha mudra, for example. These are pranic mudras, the effective prana. But in meditation, and we don't need to bother about lesser, there takes place what is called the Kachari mudra. Now, the hatha yogis, they literally cut tendons under the tongue, and then they stick their tongue out and they have something, and they literally pull their tongue and try to make the tongue long so they can go way back and push it up behind the uvula, up in, and put it into an area opposite here, and it will knock you out cold. The nerve currents in the tip of the tongue, which is very intense, will knock you out. If you like it, go ahead and do it. But the real mudra for yogis is the Kachari mudra, which means the skywalking mudra. It doesn't give any indication about a point in the body. Automatically, you should start the meditation with the eyes just down, relaxed. See, you can go like that and see. Then you close it and let it be. But if it is what's good for you, at one point your eyes will move upward very gently, and you will be looking up, just up, like an up, and looking from a distance, not like this. I've seen people who had fake gurus that would look up and cross their eyes. No. So it's just a natural thing. It goes up and it goes down. It's according to what your subtle bodies need, so don't pay any attention. But this is basically like this, the real Kachari mudra. And it should happen spontaneously. If it does not happen spontaneously, it's not the Kachari mudra. And you'll find it out on your own if you're doing Soham Sadhana. If you're not doing Soham Sadhana, well, I have nothing to say. But I do have to say if you are. Have you ever heard of anyone refusing to reincarnate and succeeding? If we has free will, we must surely be able to make such a decision. Otherwise, in my opinion, we're nothing but slaves. Okay, right now, use your free will to levitate. Use your free will to suddenly have your face flushed and you're red. You can't. So isn't that really a bit extreme to say that if you can will it, you should be able to do it? There are people who drink booze and it's their will that they won't get drunk, but they get drunk. So we can do a lot of things. There are people that they're supposed to say go into an important meeting and they don't want to go, and they develop a rash and it's very genuine, they itch and so on, and they say, well, I got to go with the doctor. Doesn't that happen? Yes. So indeed, it has been seen and written about. That's what's important. I recommend to you the writings, although vegetarianism is discouraged in those writings, of a very, very brilliant woman. She was one of the first psychotherapists in England. Her name was Dr. Violet Firth, but she wrote under the name Dion Fortune, D-I-O-N, and Fortune, just like making a fortune. And she writes, I believe in her book called The Secrets of Dr. Tavener, which are all true, but she's not telling the actual person's name. Dr. Tavener did not exist, but there was a very great occultist she knew, and she writes about his experiences. And there was a woman came to see him and said, I have a daughter, and she's just been like a vegetable. And right now, I think the woman was maybe 18 or 19 years old or older. So he went, she said, I want to bring her in. Can you possibly look and see if you can help her? Since he brought the girl in. And he saw that the girl was there, but standing beside her body. And he was very clairvoyant. And he saw that when the time had come for her to fully be born, because at that time when we're in the womb, we go in and out. The astral body goes in and out. We go here and there, and then we come in and we get locked in as a rule, and we're born. But she said, I won't, I won't, I won't. Well, so her astral body came out of the womb right along with the physical. Now you understand there were many connections between the astral body and her physical body at all times. Otherwise, the physical would have died. But there she was. So anyway, he spoke to this girl psychically, and he persuaded her to get in the body, and boom, suddenly there she was. And she spoke and she moved around. She was quite intelligent. Her mother thought it was quite a miracle, but it really happened. Anyway, Dion Fortune's books are very good. Psychic Self-Defense is extraordinarily valuable, but they all are. Though, as I say, she says, in her opinion, vegetarian diet makes you too sensitive. But if you're a yogi, you have control and it won't make you too sensitive. Anyway, but I've known a lot of vegetarians that were clods, so I kind of doubt that as a blanket rule that it makes you too sensitive. So it's true. And so we are here. And by the way, you chose when you would come in, and there is a part of you that's willing everything that goes on in your life. All right. Is it wrong to worship images of God or deities? Well, since God is absolutely everything, if you're in the mood, you can take this timer and say, God, I know you are in there. I know this is really your consciousness, and I'm saluting you. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I personally don't do it, but you could. But what you have to understand is, what is sight? What happens when you see something? Right now, I am in your mind because you're seeing my form. and forms have vibrations. So, like you look at something that's good to eat and your body reacts. It's not just because there's a memory of having eaten it, it's because you're touching it in your mind, and some of its qualities is coming deep into the way back part of your mind. Therefore, you see, here is Ganesha. Here is Durga. The way the things work in the visuals of this particular program makes everything backwards for me. Anyway, when you look at Ganesha and you look just calmly, your mind is literally shaping. In fact, what you're seeing is inside your mind. You never really see anything that's out there. You see an interpretation in your mind. And that is a symbolic form that is of a tattva, a principle in the mind of God. And when you look at it calmly, it begins to manifest. The qualities do. And the same with Durga. So you see, all the gods are really bhavas, states of consciousness inherent in God. Now, we shouldn't be simplistic. The gods are existing in the higher worlds, and they are right down here too, with us. When we take an image, then you must understand this is why Sanatana Dharma is so awesome. It's why it's so glorious. It's limitless. Now, for example, I don't have a deity image right at the point, so here, somebody gave me this. It's supposed to be a sloth. A friend of mine gave me this, and I always keep it as a memory of her. Okay? Now, let's say that this is an image, a depiction, a thought form of a consciousness that is in the higher worlds. I can, if it is that, which it is not, so I can do what is called prana pratishtha, which means establishment of life force. I can invoke that deity, and my invocation makes, think of it as an electrical connection between myself and that. And since I am magnetic, I'm bioenergetic, then I can touch this, do the invocation, mantra, you see, and that energy, which is also consciousness, will come into this. I have seen images come to life in India. I've been there at the consecration of temples, and I have seen a beautiful stone image, for example, of Durga there, which has, which has which has many arms. And a very, very great saint had been brought from the Himalayas to do this consecration, this prana pratishtha. And so he stood up by it because it was slightly bigger than life-size image. And he put his hands on it. And as he put his hands on it, I tell you, all 10 of her arms just sort of went like this momentarily. The eyes began to like spark. And a living being was there. A living being's on the other end of that sound. It's like a telephone. This is a perfect example. So that image became like a telephone between Durga here on the earth and the supreme Durga, Mahadurga, in the higher worlds. So you see, right now in this room, Ganesha is present, Durga is present, Anandamayi Ma is present, Shiva is present, the Virgin Mary is present. Truly, they are here. Behind me, this area, uh, okay, they are about 25 Buddhist images. They're all there alive. So this room is filled with deities. Every morning, I come here. I have right there atop the camera I'm looking at, Ganesha. I salute Ganesha. And then I take incense, I light it, and right here in front of me is a large, about a 4-foot or bigger picture of Jesus. And then all around me are different forms of deities, mostly Hindu, but I have some Buddhist deities there. I have actually here a shelf that has 8 images of Kuan Yin Bodhisattva, a shrine to Buddha in the corner there. And so I take it, if this is the incense stick, I turn it in, for what's for me is a clockwise motion, and I go around and I offer it to them. And they see it and they know it. They don't need the incense, of course. But it's my way of saying, here it is. I bought this incense, cost money. It's absolutely the best incense that I know of. And I got it, and I'm offering it to you because you are real. You see? If you don't act like God is real, then God is not real. In other words, there is no response. This is action and reaction. You say, can you control God? No, you don't control God. But for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And once God comes into form, yes, in a sense, there's nothing God can do about it. Like there was a time where you and I were disembodied. So if somebody thought, I just love to beat the heck out of them, well, so what? But now we're in a body and somebody can do it. Yes, is God limited? Oh, yes, if you want to say all these ring around the rosy, silly things, yes. God limits it. Why? I don't know if you remember Saturday Night Live, wonderful program, and there was one of the people there had a character called Father Guido Sarducci, and he used to make kind of, jokes, especially relating to religious things. But at one point he said, and the young man doing it was serious, why is God everywhere? And the answer was, because he likes you. The love of God, I remember talking to a Christian whose wife was a very dedicated yogi. And there were certain aspects of Asatana Dharma he didn't understand, etc. But at one point, his wife and I were both trying to explain. He said, I get it. These ordinary Christians, they don't believe in the love of God. That's why they don't believe in imagery. That's why they don't believe meditation will do any good, and so on. You got to follow them, and that's it. He understood right. So, you can do anything. I can misuse anything. I can take a shoe and make it into a planner. Very idiotic thing to do. Or I could take a ceramic shoe and try to wear it. Also very idiotic. But everything in its place and a place for everything, which is also the yogi knows very well. So you see, there's a wrong and a right way to do it. And in Bharat, in India, they know the right way to do it, and they do it. And I've done pranapratishtha of images in various places. And I tell you, the deity comes. But if you don't want the deity to come, well, it's very comforting to think that the deity has not come. What is in the mind of the unbeliever? Are they unbelievers or are they anti-believers? They don't want it to be true. A lot of people, they were raised fundamentalist Christians. And the fundamentalists say, boy, when you die, God's going to be there and judge you and stick you into hell. And they don't want it to be so. They really believe it's so. But they don't want it to be so, so they say, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in any of this. Now, I'll tell you a thing I've told before, but you may have not heard it. I knew a minister who said that he was in, I think, in the Pacific Northwest somewhere. And this bullying atheist came all on his own to see him where he was staying in someone's house and gave a whole tirade about how there's no God and all the reasoning why there's no God. So when the man was finally through, the minister said, well, there's two things wrong with what you said. One is completely false and mistaken. But two, you don't believe it yourself. And the man put up his right hand and said, I swear to God in heaven I do. There you see. All right. But again, it is not wrong to worship God through an image. Look, I can't see you. I have faith you're there. So I'm talking to you. And all of this electronic stuff is intermediary. Well, in India, they knew how to do it so you can make the natural supernatural and persuade the supernatural to become the natural. Nothing like it in the world. All right. How is yoga just a stopping of thoughts in the mind? Is that all there is to it? Of course not. And anyone who thinks that the first Yoga Sutra means that is not. For example, I'm sorry, I wish I had, I don't think I've got a copy I could just bring out. See, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirod, something like that. And Nirod means both the suppression and the prevention of vrittis in the chitta, the mind. Chitta is not the mind, like the manasa. The chitta is a field of subtle energies that is part of the mind and shows us impressions. Vritti means a wave. It doesn't mean like seeing, hearing, and so on. It means like a ripple in water. And that when the water ripples, you can't get a true picture or image of what is being reflected in the water. So when we have vrittis, and you're seeing me, that's a vritti in your mind. See, don't think of it just as a thought. If I pinch myself, that sensation is also a vritti. So then, all modifications of the mind cease in real yoga. And there's no way to describe that. Like, for example, if you've never had dreamless sleep, how would I describe dreamless sleep to you? Say, well, you don't dream. If you are a yogi, you can attain this. If you're a Soham yogi, you can attain this state. This I assure you. Absolutely, that is true. I fiddled around with Raja Yoga, so-called subtle pranayamas, didn't do it. I fiddled with a lot of mantras. In other words, I fiddled away half a century or more. And then when I came to genuine yoga, then I found out what I was trying to get, trying to make happen, happened absolutely automatically. And in a way I could never have imagined. Obviously, how would you imagine these higher states? So it's not all there is to it. And people like to say, I practice the silence. Yeah, sure you do. This does not think, is it enlightened? A rock doesn't think, is it enlightened? So why pursue this foolishness? And it is foolishness. All right, that's enough. Okay, where are we now? Can a person realize Brahman just by spiritual activities such as meditation without ritualistic worship and prayers or devotion to personal gods? Absolutely. The yogis have done it. There have been yogis who've done all these other things and it didn't happen, and then they practiced yoga and it happened. And they said, guess what? It happened. But don't be foolish. Another thing we like to do is say, ooh, the highest. Well, what's the highest? I want the highest. Now, a child would say, I only want to go to a school where immediately they'll teach me everything and all the teachers know everything. Well, that's ridiculous. But this is a very good ploy of people who don't want to get anywhere. So they want to say, well, why should I do that since God is everywhere and all around me? What a bore. What ignorant bores. So all you need to do is just stop thinking. Well, again, a person in a coma doesn't think. Are they enlightened? How ridiculous. So certainly you can do that realization, but these help. And a person that's so foolish they don't want to use helps, well, that's what they are. They're foolish. You see? Isn't Advaita the same as monism? Absolutely not. That's a very important question. Monism says there's only one, very bullyingly. Advaita says there's not two. You say, what's the difference? Because one is saying, that's the way it is. And another is saying, it's not dual. But you see, only in the depths of sadhana, of yoga meditation, and then later on, in the depths of the consciousness of the yogi established through meditation, is the non-dual state comprehended. And it has to be comprehended. So it is not one, but it's not two. Well, that's logical because this is a relative world. There's, one potato, two potato, three potato, four. All right? But God's not a potato, and you're not a potato. So you're neither one nor two, but you are not two. If you think it's just riddles, That's all right. But it is important to see. But only the yogi knows what this is about. I cannot give you an idea at all if I talk for hours. Okay. Yes. Recently, someone told me that if you commit a mistake, it can never be erased. Does this mean that even if I try now to improve myself and follow a strict life, I'll never be blessed? Of course not. And I would question the motives of the person who told you that. Well, it's true. We had World War I. Could it not be a part of reality? It happened. It was in history. It's gone. It's not going on. But it happened. World War II happened. Look, you and I went to school and we gave the wrong answers and we learned better and then we gave the right answers. So do you say, well, the wrong answer is still with me because I did it? Or you made a mistaken judgment. Is it permanent? Of course not. You see? First of all, understand this is a dream ultimately. It is a dream, but it's a training dream or a training movie. Think it was a training film. And all these absolutes are nearly always ridiculous. And they're always spouted by people who are doing no spiritual discipline or else no genuine discipline. They may be saying, oh, I'm doing who am I inquiry. Sri Ramana Maharshi never told people to sit and say, who am I, who am I, who am I? But that's a whole other subject. Anyway, so this is ridiculous. Yes, if you spoke cruelly to someone, that happened. And that made a samskara and a karma in your mind. But if you do sadhana, it will erase it. And if you go back and apologize to that person, it will also counteract the karma. So the idea that every little thing, if I belch, does that do something that's with me permanently? So no, it doesn't mean that. First of all, it's stupid. It's true on one level and utterly false on another level, which is the another level they wanted you to think. If you killed 1,000 people, and people have, think of the man that dropped the bomb of Hiroshima. Does that mean he can never manage spiritually? Of course he can. He'll attain enlightenment in the future life. Because first of all, friends, it is just movies. Now, you can be evil and say, well, it's just movies, so I stole that person's property. I wanted it, but it was just a movie, wasn't it? Yeah, but you have to have the movie of karma. And that means you stole from them and somebody's going to steal from you and you won't like that movie. There are people who think if you say it's just basically ultimately unreal, or if it's a dream, well, then you can get away with anything. Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. So, there is that. So, you are already blessed, otherwise you wouldn't be interested in being blessed. You are aware of your own inner potential. That's what attracts you to the life of blessedness. You are already illuminated, otherwise you wouldn't be attracted to the idea of illumination. But you see, you're wandering in a dream maze and you have to awake. And the only way to awake is be a yogi. All right. Can scriptures claiming to be the teachings of a great teacher be fully trusted? No. But you are. Because who wrote it? You can say, oh, here's the teachings of Krishna. Did Krishna write the Bhagavad Gita? Oh, here's the Gospels, the teaching of Jesus. Did Jesus write them? Now, Sivananda wrote books, and Sivananda wrote about his spiritual experience. So at least he did it, and you're reading the person's words themselves. But whether you believe it or not, first of all, since it's not your experience, who cares? He wrote a marvelous poem. I've cited it in some of my writings. Only God I saw. Now, I knew him, and I lived with him, and I saw him, and he was like God upon the earth, in my opinion. And so I believe his poem, Only God I Saw. But so what? If I don't see God, if I don't have that experience, who cares? When you eat, will I belch? No. So putting your faith on any individual, well, first of all, it's a sign of a fake religion that says there's this one person and one teaching and one way, and if you just believe and accept, then you're all right. That's idiocy. Don't be an idiot. Most religion is for fools and from fools. So it doesn't matter if the Gita is true or not. If you don't follow the principles, you'll never know. And if you follow the principles, well, then you will know whether it's true or false. You see, we must be pragmatists at all times. Does it work? Does it have an effect? Does it move things forward for me? That's exactly it. There are people, oh, Sri Guru told me, say Om Ring Hung Hung Bung Bung Didi Ma. Yeah, you do it. You'll mess your nervous system up, but go ahead and do it, mess up your nervous system, and know your guru was a fool and not a true guru. Never trust anything. You shouldn't believe anything I say just because I say it. People wanted to celebrate groupies love to elevate the teacher's ego because they have egos and they want to preserve their egos. And if they flatter the ego of the teacher, he may never threaten their ego. So the disciples of Pythagoras, a great sage, wanted to celebrate his birthday. And when they suggested, he said, no, my birthday is my shame. Because if I was truly illumined, I wouldn't have been born here in this world. Isn't it so? So also there you are. Apply it and see if it works. And when it doesn't work, have the courage and the integrity to say, hey, it didn't work. Now, you can qualify it and say it didn't work for me. And if it worked, it worked. You see? I didn't believe. I was just thinking about this actually. About whether or not to talk to you about this, and I will. All right. Some friends of mine took me to when I was living in Hollywood, and they took me further out toward the coast, and I forget the name of the particular town, but there was a chain of ice cream parlors called Will Wright's Ice Cream Parlors. And we went there, and when we were walking up to the ice cream place, there was a niche on our right-hand side in the wall, and there was, I'd say, about a 3-foot high image, white marble image, that looked like a fat man with a few arms and an elephant's head. And I said to my friends who knew more about Indian religion than I did, because I knew virtually nothing, though I belonged to a yoga cult that claimed they had all the high knowledge. And so I said, what's that? They said, oh, that's the elephant-headed god Ganesha, is worshipped in India. I said, well, now that is just plain idiotic. A god with an elephant's head? elephants aren't gods. How would that be? That's silly. So I dismiss it as, well, you know how it is. There's superstition everywhere in the world. So I was meditating, and suddenly, this was, say, maybe half a year or so, some months later, even maybe 9 months up to a year. And whoosh, whoosh, there was Ganesha, had an elephant's head. I saw it very clearly. I thought, wait a minute. Because I could see it both with closed eyes and open eyes. Then I realized, well, he's real. He's got the head of an elephant. It said in scriptures that Krishna was blue. I thought, that is stupid. And you see pictures from India where Krishna is shown as like as if he's sky blue. Then I saw him, and he was blue. But he was what I call negroid blue, very dark. Later, then I learned that in India he's described as Ganesham, dark like a storm cloud. There are certain clouds that they are dark, but they have a bluish tint. I saw one once I was in Illinois. We were walking along, and of course we have lots of rainstorms in Illinois. And one was the color. I stopped my friend and said, look, that's Krishna's color in that cloud. It's blue, but it's a dark, you call it smoky blue. Well, I was amazed. I heard Rama was green. I didn't believe it when I saw Rama, he was green. Well, did I see Rama? Did I see Krishna? Well, see. But it had an effect, and the effect was positive. Therefore, I thought, fine, I'm perfectly justified in saying that it was a real experience. But be ready for this too. You're going to see and understand things others around you don't. And it's very, very good to remember that there was a great saint that said, I've never regretted being quiet, but I've often regretted speaking. So don't say it out. See, I'm old, cantankerous, and so I'm saying it all out. And I'm not surrounded by people who are ready to like jump at me, but you may be. Therefore, be very careful. Keep it inside. There is a very good Upanishadic saying. He who knows tells it not. He who tells knows it not. And sometimes it means that. Now I'm answering these things because you're asking me in sincerity, and I'm answering you in sincerity. And when I was 9 years old, I figured out I was crazy, quite seriously. I sat in the class, fourth grade class. I was in the row that was nearest the door, so if I turned and looked, I could see my other row companions out of my, and then there were the rest. And I turned, I looked, I thought, now those people are sane. I accepted that completely as so. And I'm not sane. Because I'm different. I'm not saying. So, should I try to be more like them? Should I do something about this and try to be more like what I'm seeing? And I thought on it, and I decided, I'm having more fun than anybody else in this room, so I'm staying crazy. And that was the end. It never worried me. I one time gave a talk to a metaphysical study group, and this one very anxious young man asked me, was I ever worried that I was crazy? I told him, no, I'm not the least worried I'm crazy. I happen to know I'm crazy. And so it is. So it is. So, all right. We're only 1 minute over the time. So I've loved talking with you because we're talking about eternal verities or the threads that lead to eternal verities. That's a wonderful thing. To just think on these things are wonderful. Again, why I love this book, Hinduism, as I love the Sananda Dharma book. I read it. I know these things are so, but to again remember them is a very, very profoundly wonderful and remarkable things. Such as every day, I get up, I look around, and all around me, on all four walls, there are photographs of great masters, great saints of various religions. And they're there because of the meditation done and the attention given. They're all alive. There's a photograph of Yogaraj Shamacharya Lahiri, who an autobiography of a yogi is called Lahiri Mahashai. That photograph is so alive, it's incredible. And then just over is a photograph of Sri Ramana Maharshi that, again, stuns me every time I look at it. Literally, it just stuns me because he is there and he is looking at me. And anyone who doesn't believe it, of course, is free to not believe it, but it's so. But I'm surrounded by divinity in a subtle form, of course, subtle vibrations. But I come down and we have a large room where we have even huge pictures from India of various deities, avatars, great masters such as Ganeshwara and Tukarama. And I am in their presence. So I come down from the presence of great masters and different presences of them and God's and walk through it and then come into here. So I'm never away. I'm looking right here, you see, at where it will register on the screen. But I peripherally see Ganapati there, and I peripherally see Kuan Yin there, and right in front of me, I see Jesus. And of course, so I look behind, well, there it is. There's the Virgin Mary, there's Shiva, there's Durga, picture of Shiva on the cover of my book, Soham Yoga, some Buddhist imagery, Anandamayi Ma, Ganesha, and by Ganesha, Swami Vidyananda Giri Maharaj, who almost like Ma, you can't talk about. She was so incredible. She was Ma's, Anandamayi's mother, and great beyond any thought. Ma, in fact, said that. Ma said someone of her spiritual status is born only once in many, many, many centuries. And Ma didn't say it because she was her mother, because she wasn't really her mother, because Ma didn't have a mother. Ma was that which came into manifestation. You see, her mother's name was Mokshada Sundari Devi Bhattacharya. Her husband was a great saint, and he loved devotional music. And much of his time was spent traveling around Bengal, teaching devotional singing to people and talking about spiritual realities. And one day, he'd been gone for quite a long while, months, and he got a letter from his wife. And she said, I don't understand this, but I have a strong feeling I am pregnant. Well, he came back, and you understand he was a great saint. He took a look at her, he knew, oh, my wife has not committed adultery. And yes, it's kind of becoming obvious. She is pregnant. So when the time came that she just felt it's time for the child to be born, she lay down and suddenly the child was there. Silent, didn't cry. Later on, she asked Ma, why didn't you cry? Ma said, why I was crying? I was busy looking at the banana tree outside the window of the bedroom. So I'm telling you this, you can understand the world isn't what we think it is, and when we let it be more than it is, as in India, it becomes more than it is. So there was that truth. There was this truth about Ma. Ma said and did things that showed she was pure consciousness appearing to us as matter. Why did she do it? So we'd understand that you and I are pure consciousness appearing like matter. It's important to realize. But you see, you can live with these people. It's called a pita. It means a place where you've established, especially a Shakti pita, energy. That's why I really recommend holy pictures, holy images. And wherever you meditate, or through the whole house after a while, that vibration will be there. You can live in it. It's a wonderful thing. So perhaps, frankly, this is among the most important of anything I've talked about. As I said, before I met Ma, there was this photograph where her eyes were turned down, almost as if closing. But when I meditate, the eye would open up and Ma would look straight at me. Then other things happened. And then I went to see Ma, and people would say, what's it like to be with Anandamayi Ma? The answer is like nothing the human mind can conceive of or can describe. But remember this, she was manifestation of the divine consciousness, and you are a manifestation of the divine consciousness. Become your own Ishtadevata, your own chosen ideal or beloved deity. You become Parabrahman. You become the absolute reality because you really are. Discover that. To say, oh, Ma was divine and I believe in Ma. Oh, I hope when I die I'll go to see Ma in the heavens. You fool is what someone should say to me if ever I say that. Thou art that. Thou art that. That is a great Upanishadic dictum. You are that. You came here to find out. You came to learn. When you went to school, if you flubbed everything and you didn't listen, then when you went home and you saw your mother, you say, oh, Mama, I love you so much. I didn't learn anything at school today. I wouldn't even think about it. I didn't even do the schoolwork because, Mommy, I love you and I thought of you all the time. She'd say, well, my kids obviously got more than one screw loose up here. Spiritually, don't have loose screws. Realize you're that. What a wonderful thing. What a wonderful, wonderful thing. So, namaste, namaste, namaste.